Good morning. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Marcelo Chain. It's a big pleasure being here with you. You can use the chat here if you want to ask me something, but we're going to leave the questions to the end of this presentation. And I'm talking here in Brazil. We're going to speak about the fiber resin post today. And I hope I can give you a very clinical presentation about this with, of course, scientific backward. And feel free to leave your questions to the end. And I hope at the end I was able to show you all my experience with those fiber resin posts. I've been working with this for a very long time, and since the beginning actually, because those posts were invented in 1989. So they've been more than 30 years on the market. And I had the pleasure actually to work with them since the beginning. So I know exactly what happened, the evolution, how did they get better, and of course, the best techniques to use it. So we know why did they fail in the past. So let's take a look at my presentation now. As I told you, it's a big pleasure. It's the first time that I talk to some people in Arabia. And I know you guys are very well succeed there. And you have some Brazilian products, and you have one of the best Brazilian products, I can tell you. Not because I'm sponsored for a company, but because it is. And before I begin, just let me tell you where I am from. This is Brazil and South America. And we have an island. Actually, it's a little island that has a 100-kilometer extension called Florianopolis. It's a very nice island. I live here more or less in the center of the island, close to the sea. And on this left side, as you can see here, and the University Federal of Santa Catarina is also located there. Florianopolis has more than 100 beaches, and you are very well invited to come here and visit us. We'd like to have tourists from Arabia, and actually I have a student, one of my dental students, my graduate students, is from Arabia. Actually, she's Brazilian, but she's living there and talk very nice things about the country. Congratulations. Let's go straight to the endodontic treatment. We know by experience that every time a tooth has an endodontic treatment, it needs a special treatment because it causes the dental weakening and because of all the physical mechanical alterations. Those tooth of the dental root treatment, the root canal treatment, involves the complete removal of the nerve and the living tissue. To access the pulp cavity of the tooth also is necessary to remove a reasonable amount of the tooth substance, the sound good substance. And this, by consequence, results in a weaker tooth structure. As you can see here, those tooths, because of all the dental structure removed, they're very weak. It's very easy to break. Let me explain a little bit deeper that the collagen, the dentinal collagen, makes a very good contribution to the mechanical properties of the dentin. And changes of those collagen fiber crosslinks may contribute to the brittleness of the endodontic treated teeth. We always see that. This loss of pulp vitality also influences the moisture content of dentin, and the iatrogenic factors associated with various operative procedures may also contribute to the fracture of endodontically treated tooth. We have situations like this commonly. We see this every day at the university and in my private practice too. So by conclusion, the literature concludes that the root canal treatment changes the tooth architecture, changes the properties of dentin, and changes the proprioceptions. Just by itself uh, weakens the dental structure very much so to have situations like this, a lot of fractures. So came the post. And the primary purpose of a post is to retain the core build-up material or to reinforce what we have of remaining structure to provide retention for the final restoration. So situations like this, we don't have nothing to retain the core material. Some dentists insist and place composite resin inside the root canal, but this is useless. I mean, it's extremely weak. So to retain this core material, we need a post. And also, when we have a weak dental remaining structure, we have to reinforce it. And to reinforce this dental structure, we also need a post. That's the best way to do this. We've been using for a very long time, and we're very glad to have it, the cast metallic posts. These cast metallic posts are excellent, but unfortunately, most of the dentists do not use the appropriate metal, and there are another disadvantages of those cast metallic posts. They are not aesthetic at all. They have a very difficult impression. It's difficult to feed. You need sometimes to do a lot of adjustments. Cost is higher because you need a laboratory and there's a lot of procedures involved, and does not bond. The stress transmission is not very good because the adhesion is not good at all. The placement of those fabricated cast posts has also the drawback of stress concentration, where at the apical half of the root, making the thin dentinal walls very susceptible to fracture. And I bet you guys have been seeing this. And fractures like this, especially in premolars, caused by fracture at the thin walls of the tooth. But this is because of a stress distribution, and that explains a lot of things. When you have a material with a high modulus, what is a high modulus? It's something very stiff, very rigid. So what happened is all the stress is transferred to the apical part, and that leads to a fracture. It can be in cast metals, it can be in prefabricated metallic posts too. So those high modulus means the rigidity. They're not very good in dentistry at all. For example, if you look at the stainless steel or the ceramic, the Young's modulus of elasticity, the stiffness is extremely high, 200 gigapascals. If you look at the gold, which is better, but not many people use it, it's about 70. So we have better, but look at the dentist, 20 gigapascals. So we have a huge difference among or between metallic, ceramics, and dentin. That explains why there's so much transfer of stress to the apical part. The first fiber posts, they used to have 20 gigapascals. But because of the cementation problems, now they are not that flexible. They are a little bit more stiff because they need it not to debond for the tooth. So situations like this, those cracks are very common. And of course, those cracks transforming itself where? Transforming in fractures. So when we have a crown loosening like this case, that's because certainly those cracks are opening, and unfortunately, there is nothing we can do unless just to take it out and place an implant. So those cast metals, even with the ferrule effect, sometimes they transfer they transfer a lot of stress and causes this kind of cracks. And those cracks they open, and we know what else is going to happen. Situations like this are not unusual. We see that constantly with the fractures, and the sometimes because during the process of doing, there's some perforations because it's a little bit more difficult to take an impression of it. Most of the dentists don't make them long enough, and we have this kind of situation, which is not unusual, as I said. Look at this: fractures, fractures, and fractures. So metals are very good actually, but prone to a lot of problems. Look at this. This is a extracted tooth caused by a metallic post. Of course, it's an active post. A lot of people like to use them because it's very easy to place inside the root canal, but it's extremely dangerous too because it leads to cracks and fractures like this, which is very constant. So eliminate those active posts, metallic active posts from your life. Also, take care of the root perforations because the dentistry use all kind of burrs to remove the gutta percha, and sometimes they perforate it, and even it's not noticeable. But see here, there is um, 3 elements, crowns here, and I was just taking off. I mean, it was just made without perceiving that there was a big perforation here. So also we see this constantly, perforations due to difficulties of making those cast metal posts. The ceramic post, it is very good aesthetic advantage over the metallic post. But you know, the cast ceramic post is even harder, even stiffer than the metals. They're extremely rigid and they transfer a lot of stress to the root canal. It has the same disadvantage of taking impression of the interior of the canal, and um, but it's very, very steep too. So the only advantage of metals is the aesthetic, but there is no other big advantages over it. So it has the same behavior as the metals. So let's go back to the pathway of the Pope, 2002, very traditional book of endodontics. And then they say the foremost purpose of the dowel, the post, is to provide retention for the core and coronal restoration. Great, we already know that. But it should do this without increasing the risk of root fracture. I mean, we have to do this, but not increasing the risk of root fracture. Otherwise, you're just condemning the tooth to its death. Then they created the resin fiber post. It's just a mixing of resin, the composite resin, the epoxy resin, with glass fibers or carbon fibers. At the beginning, all kinds of fibers were used. Today, we know the glass fibers are the best. This is more or less like this. It's composite resin pressing a lot of glass fibers. Those glass fibers gives a lot of strength. And if you break one of them, here is one broken post, and you see a lot of composite resin here. And the best one, they have a lot of fibers, not so many resin. The very poor posts, and there's a lot on the market, they have few fibers and not a lot of and a lot of those resin, which is not good because they're not strong enough. So aesthetic fiber resin posts like this one here, they are clinically similar and generally more conservative of tools than other prefabricated posts. And this is the nice thing. It can be used for virtually any post-endodontic situation. So they are very versatile, very versatile. So I like those aesthetic fiber posts. I've used a lot, all my students use. I have a 3 graduated course and of course the undergraduate course, and we use a lot because it's very versatile. They are very conservative, the best conservative possible, and easier to place than cast metal, and typically require just one chairside appointment, which for me it's a big advantage. This to do this as fast as possible, so you don't have all the work just to take impression, to adjust, to prepare again. It's just one section to prepare it, and you can take the impression, the final impression, next section, just conclude your crown in 2 sections. So they are made of materials also chemically inert. A lot of people here in Brazil are worried about what kind of materials they're putting in their mouth. So the fact of being chemically inert makes them not associate with sensitization or allergy in the patient. But the biggest advantage, the major advantage, those fiber reinforced posts, and this is a main consensus, they have an elastic modulus that is similar to knitting, which results in a more even distribution of occlusal loads through the root. So there's a lot of studies showing this. I mean, you have something to help to absorb all the occlusal loads. So it preserves the tooth structure, avoids fracturing. So it's a very nice protection for the tooth. But take care, they are not the same. Not all posts are the same. Minimum necessary to have some resistance as 60% fibers. And but a lot of the posts in the market, they have less than 45% fibers, which is not suitable at all. I mean, you just placing a material that's a little bit stronger than just the composite resin by itself, which is not okay. And this company that is sponsoring this is not because of this. They make a very nice post. I've been following their development, and I've worked with the first post they developed. It is incredible how technological they are right now. And they are making this wise post by the company FGM, and they have the 75 to 85% glass fibers. So it's a huge quantity of fibers that make them extremely strong. I've never seen one single fracture since I've been using those new posts. So, and I have a lot of students. It's not my not my patients only from my office, but also from all the schools that I give a lecture. The wipes post, the DC, which is the one available in Arabia, they are translucent because they transmit lights. They have 80% glass fiber, a lot, between 80 plus or minus 5. Epoxy resin, 20%. The Young's modulus varies between 30 and 50 gigapascals, depending on the thickness. And the flexural strength is 800 megapascals. It is extremely strong, see 800 megapascals, extremely strong, has a nice flexural strength, and works very well. Let's take a look. Also, it is red opaque. Red opaque is very good for us clinicians, so we can see exactly where the post is. They are tapered posts. At the beginning, or until today, most of the manufacturers, they do cylindrical posts. But the cylindrical posts, they are more aggressive and they don't follow the tooth anatomy. So they are doing, the FGM does this tapered post. Tapered is very conservative, have a better cervical diameter, and demands a specific burr that comes with, so you have exactly the same shape, and that's why it's very well fitted to the root canal. Take a look at how many sizes do they have. They have 0.5, 1, 2, and 3. We use a lot the 0.5, but also there are other canals that's a little bit bigger, number 1, 2, and 3. And they are dual tapered. What is dual taper? Dual taper, two tapers. I mean, this is the cylindrical part. This is the first inclination, the first taper, and this is the second taper. And this is exactly what we need for our root canal. Perfect. I like it. It's very smooth. It follows the canal very well. Well, this is very important also because I've been noticing the one of the main reasons for fail, I think is probably the best technique problems, is to have a very good cervical feed. When you have a cylindrical one or a very thin post, then you have a lot of cement at the cervical region. So you need something thicker here. I mean, the neck of the post should be thicker here. Okay, so let's take a look at this. If you use a post like this, you see a lot of space here. And this, a lot of space is not good at all because it makes this post very loose into the canal. If you fill this with the cement, it's not good at all. I mean, the cement is not as good as the post. So that's one of the main reasons for fails on this kind of post. I mean, this should be filled with another post or a bigger post or a post that has a bigger neck. See, because, you know, the cement and the root always have a weak link. And also, don't forget that cement, the resin cement is a composite resin and shrinks. So you have the polymerization shrinks. So when you have a situation like this, and it's very common actually, they have this new version, which is called DCE. This is dual tapered. E comes from special in Portuguese. And this is special means has a bigger diameter at the median and cervical area. Compare, this is the dual taper special. Look, they have the same apical diameter, but see how big is the difference here at the cervical area. So it's a very good solution for those cases. Take a look, same diameter. This is the 1, this is the 1E. And look how big is the difference between those diameters here. So for those guys, for those cases are excellent because you have a very better team and there is no losing of the post inside the canal. The burrs are different too. This is the burrs for the DC. This is the burrs for the E, meaning they are shorter. They don't need to be that long. Okay. This is the FGM pre-manufactured. They have all kinds of posts, but there is a new one too. I don't know if it's available for you, but it's very interesting because it's a very thin. And so I put a star in here because it's brand new and it's been working excellent. Actually, it's the thinnest one I've seen. It is called DC Feet. Feet. It's zero point 0.4 millimeters diameter. See, here is 0.45 at the end. The zero point 0.5 DC is 0.65. So it's very thin at the apical area. And it is thicker at the cervical area than the 0.5. Very different posts, especially made for situations when you have a bigger neck, but you don't have a very large area at the apical part of the tooth. So I like to use them in situations like this too, because you can use them as an accessory post. See, this is one of my undergrad students that have made this 2 weeks ago. I mean, we placed this, and even with this, because of the anatomical shape of the canal, we could not have a very good fit. So we placed 2 of those, and now we have a very well fitted, and not so many resin cement to be necessary here. So it's excellent idea. See, now we have a structure where we can trust. Let's take a look at the operative technique, how we should place this, the step by step. And I think this is based on our experience, also supported by scientific information. So first thing is very nice X-ray. So on the X-ray, you can see the post length and the configuration you're going to be using based on the X-ray. It comes, of course, if you already know this post, you see that comes with the box, this little guide. This is a plastic guide, transparent one, that you place over the X-ray, so you know exactly what kind of post you're going to be using for that specific case. So you're going to do your post selection. You're going to do your post selection here. So how we select those? See, this is a guide using the dual taper special and the dual tape. The post diameter should be very similar to the preparation diameter. Leave 5 millimeters of gutta percha apically, always 5. Marcelo, if the root is too short, then you can diminish to 3 millimeters. Okay, sometimes you have to leave less gutta percha. And at the lateral parts of the tooth, to avoid any kind of perforation, you should leave 1.5 millimeter of denting laterally. So that's how the criteria you're going to be using to select your post. Leave 5, leave 1.5 laterally. Okay, and the neck should be as thick as possible according to the preparation, so you have a very nice fit. Okay, so another X-ray here showing 1.5 laterally, 5 millimeters apically. All right. So you can start with gates bleeding to make the gutta percha removal, always leaving 5 millimeters, and then you go from here to the special burrs that comes with the kit. So you take the special burrs, and of course, if you're gonna use the 0.5, you're gonna use the 0.5 burrs. If you're gonna use the 1, you're gonna use the 1 burr. So it's very easy. It's very self-instructive. You just place there and place the post letter. Okay, so those are, see, they don't have an active point, so it's impossible for you to perforate. And they're very nice. They're German burrs, excellently made, and very last longing, very last longing. I mean, You can just buy the refills later because you don't need another burrs. You buy the burrs and it takes a long time until you need to replace them. And again, this is for this dual taper special. This is for dual taper normal. So here is the endodontic part. A lot of people use mechanized instrumentation. So after nice endodontics, you use, and see, that's what I want to show you, how well fitted to the root canal is the burr. So the burr makes it like we do in implants. So the burr makes us do the access, which is or has exactly the same size of the post. So when the post is very well fitted, adjusted to the canal, there is no way to lose it. So you don't have to be afraid because the cement layer here is very thin. So this adjustment makes it a success of the technique. After that, you have to clean. Cleaning is fundamental. There is a little controversy about what kind of products, blah, blah, you should use to clean because sodium hypochlorite may cause a difference in denting. But in my opinion, the best way to clean is with using the burr. The burr is going to take out all the residual from the endodontics, the cement, the gutta-percha, etc., etc. After using the burrs, when you see the burr is coming clean and not with gutta-percha or cement, just with denting, then you can clean with sodium hypochlorite. Not so many times. You can clean for about 10 seconds using a micro brush, clean the best way possible, and wash later. No residual of sodium hypochlorite should be there. You see here, those little brush, they're not very resistant, but you can find those on the market. They help, of course. It's one more instrument to do the cleaning inside the canal. Most of the fails, attention please, occurs at the junction cement intraradicular dentin. Remember, as I told you about the neck of the post, the second is to clean the canal the best way possible. So you have to make sure the canal is very clean. Otherwise, the adhesive procedures are not be great. Oh, I'm emphasizing this. Why? Because I've seen this before. Dentists are not very well careful about cleaning the inside canal. Look at this. This is some SEM microscopy showing dentin, cement, and the post. And on these areas between the cement and the dentin are the main fractures. So less the cement, better the adhesion, cleaner the dentin, better the adhesion. Okay. After that, you just place the post, fitting, see if it's well fitted. If it's not losing at all, it has to have a tight fitting, and then you can make your mark just to cut it. And you can cut it later, you can cut it now. I mean, it doesn't matter. Leave 2/3 of the crown length. So it's very easy. 2/3 inside, 2/3 outside. And then you prepare the post. The FGM post is already silanized. So you don't have to place silane again, but you have to clean. So clean with alcohol and dry it, of course. If you want, as an optional, if you want to just make sure no silane was lost during the procedure, then you can use a silane and just apply it and leave it there for 1 minute until it dries out. But as I told you, those FGM posts already come silanized. And I think it's important to place an adhesive system. I've been using a lot the Umber Universal. We have the Umber, the 5th generation also. It's very good. And this adhesive, they have the advantage of not being a lot yellow at all. They're very clean. And since if you look here at them, SEM, the electron microscopy, those posts, they have a lot of micro perforations here. So those micro retentions, they can be very well impregnated with the adhesive system. So it's a good idea. Of course, the cement by itself will also feel this, but the adhesive will feel better. So place the adhesive here. Do not light cure. Do not light cure. If you light cure, then the fitness may be not that good. Remember, you are working a very tight fitting. This will light cure later with the light. Okay? So let's do the dental preparation. The dental preparation, you have to place phosphoric acid. I've placed this picture here to show how not to do. See how the acid is staying here, it's not penetrating at all because the needle is very thick. You have to place the phosphoric acid, which is the best cleaning agent, for 15 seconds. So take care of this. See, most of dentists, they place the phosphoric acid and they pray that the acid just go deep. No, 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 no. This is thixotropic. Now, it's not going by itself. It's not a liquid. So you have to use something to place the acid at the bottom, from the bottom to the up. So if you just place with the syringe that comes with the system, not success at all. So use on those needles. There are some silicone needles available on the market. Just place on your syringe and fill it from the bottom up. And it's the same thing when you wash it. I mean, if you wash with the standard air water syringe, you see there's a lot of remnants here. Those are some little studies we've done in the lab just to show that there you cannot wash very well with the syringe at all. And even if you try different angles, so use those needles also to wash from bottom to up. Those are little technologies that helps a lot. After cleaning very well with phosphoric acid, always, and also with and washing very well, then you can dry the canal after with the paper cones. So you use suction as much as possible with the proper needle, and then you just complete the service drying it with the paper cone. So this is very important step, okay? Then you're gonna place the adhesive. Take one of those micro brush. This is the FGM Cavi brush, extra fine. The extra fine penetrates at the canal very easily. So you rub the adhesive system for 20 seconds. It is important to rub because it penetrates very well. And with the proper Cavi brush, you take out the excess out, which is important, is the one impregnate into the roots. Then, as I told you, you can use any 5th generation adhesive. We're gonna use cement from FGM. They make 3 kinds of adhesives. All of 3 can be used here. The 5th generations, the one after etching, and also the universal one. I always prefer etch first. Some people, they like to use self-conditioning, so they use the universal without etching. But I know how well is the cleanings when you use the acid etching before. And then you apply the resin cement. And there is also a good technique to do that, okay? When you apply the resin cement, first of all, you have to select the best cement. The best cement could be any dual cement. Some people say, well, since the post transmits light, why can I not use a flow composite or a veneer cement? Well, don't forget that those cements, they have a polymerization shrinkage. And then it's like to have something that attenuates the stress during the polymerization shrinkage. So if you work with a flow composite and or a veneer composite, and you place it inside the canal, you depends 100% of light curing. And this is a big problem. First of all, because you're not sure if your light is going through all the post to the end. And we know the transmission of those posts are not very good. So if the light does not go through very well, you have a problem because you're going to have an unpolymerized cement. Number two, when it contracts because of the light, contracts too fast. So there is no time or internal deformation of the cement. And of course, when it contracts, because to the polymerization shrinkage that they all have, it gets loose from the root canal. So the cement contracts, and you're gonna have, a debonding at the dentin cement interface. So no, not at all. Do not use flow composites. Do not use veneer cements. Also use a dual cement. Always use a dual cement. Well, we have two options here. We have a dual cement, normal dual cement, and we have a dual cement core. What is the difference? Core means something reinforced, has more load. Because you can use, this is a nice idea, you can use the same cement to do your core. So you don't have to do this in two separate steps. Okay? So I prefer to use the Alcen core. It's a little bit heavy. I mean, the first one, the Alcen dual, it flows a little bit better. But the other one has this property of being a little bit stronger because of its composition. So we like to use the core, okay? So the fixing procedure, insert the mixed cement, and we're gonna talk about this is important. Allow time for the auto polymerization, 5 minutes. 5 minutes, yes, because it's the time to polymerize initially and deform itself internally, and then a light cure. Okay, so 5 minutes. I've done a research I'm publishing right now just to prove what I'm talking about, because it's kind of logical. But even thus, we've made a study showing that if you wait 5 minutes, then you're gonna have a much better fitness. You're not gonna have any debonding at the area. So the FGM provides this kind of tip. Excellent idea, because you see, does the mixing here and has a tip that goes inside the canal, goes inside. So let's make the cement insertion here. Well, what we know about it? We know about it is you have to inject also from the bottom to the top to fulfill first canal, and then you place the post. And this is extremely important again. So it's more one little step that makes all the difference. See, when we try to place with instrument here, this is the blue is our cement, and this is the post. You see how bad it was, the impregnation? And when we inject from the bottom, you see how nice was the impregnation here. See, we really fulfilled the canal. So there's no gaps on the cement. And this is incredible how it works. So no, do not use any instrument to place the cement. Just use those little tips that goes inside. Waste the first part of the cement. Here's only for demonstration. but you have to waste the first mixing of the cement outside, and then you place the tip to the end at the canal, and then, of course, fill it. All right? So this is the case where our students was doing. So she fulfilled all the canal and then placing the posts in order to make a very good fit. Remember, it's very important to have a very well locking of the posts inside the canal. Okay? When you use a lentil, for example, it is very dangerous actually to fill this with the lentil. Those kind of burrs, they can break inside the canal, and more than that, if you rotate it a little bit faster, the cements polymerize it, and then you have a big problem, okay? So this is the best way to do it. Use this tip. If you don't have it, you can use a Centrix composite, but also fulfill it from the bottom to the top. See how nice it is now. I mean, we've used the same cement to do the core. Here are the 3 posts, the 2 DC.4, the main one, and you have something almost ready. It's just to do the preparation now, and you can take the impression to do your crown. This is made by last year dental students, easily done by her. Okay, light cure after 5 minutes. See, this is a picture here. This is the post. This is the picture when it is light curing, and see how the light does not go very well today. So you have to have a very good one light curing unit, so you can have a nice light transmission. But you're safe because you are using a dual cement. So even if the light does not go through all the way, you still have the auto polymerization. But it would be nice to have the light. So instead of using, for example, 10 seconds, use 1 minute. 1 minute, because once I've measured, how much light gets here from the beginning is 10 times less. So the time with a good light curing unit to photo cure a cement would be 10 seconds. If it takes 10 times more, then you multiply 10 by 10, you're going to have 100 seconds. So, just use it for 100 seconds. That's about 1.5 minutes to light cure. But wait 5 minutes before you do the light curing, okay? And use the best light curing unit you can. I don't like those light curing units with this plastic tip because they dissipate the light too much. So she was light curing with this because it's the only one available at the university, but you better use a better light curing unit. Look at here, we have a lot of light in here, almost nothing here. That means the light distribution, the light transmission is not very well through the post, in spite of being translucent, excellently translucent posts. Okay? The next step would be to do the preparation. And when you do the preparation, you have to pay attention to one more detail. When you prepare, you should have the ferrule effect. Okay? The ferrule effect binds the tooth and core and post structures that exist superior to the margin. What is this? This is embracing. Ferrule is embracing. So your crown should embrace post and tooth. Otherwise, you're not going to have a very nice structure. Okay? Why? Because this bracing, this ferrule, prevents independent flexure of the different components of those margins in response to occlusal forces. Let me show you better here. See, here I'm going to finish this preparation. And to finish this preparation, I'm gonna place the retraction cord and have at least 1.5 millimeters of sound tooth. So the crown will embrace tooth and the post with the core. And that makes it very successful. It doesn't matter. Even if you use a cast metal, this is extremely important, the ferrule effect. See here, for example, I don't have any ferrule effect. I mean, there is no way a crown would embrace tooth here. There is no tooth available. So I've done a little surgery here. I improve, I do a crown lengthening surgery, and now I have the ferrule present. So my crown here would only embrace the post and the core, but here will embrace my post, my core, and also the dental structure. I know this is very basic, I'm sorry, but most of people don't know that. And they don't pay attention to that. And then they have fails and they say, wow, I don't like the fiber post because it fails because of this and this. But pay attention to this. Pay attention to this. This is very important. Well, let me show you one more application. I've done this many, many years ago. And this is how you can use it. We always finishing our presentation. But you can use posts for other situations. For example, this individual, it came to my office 7 p.m. and is going to travel tomorrow and has a broken tooth. And he uses special glue, super bonder. It probably happens in Arabia all the time too, to bond the dental structure. So what I'm gonna do, I mean, in this situation, I can do a crown here. I can place a post and I can do a crown. But, you know, just to get the specific color with the multi-chromatic tooth, you know, I thought, what am I gonna do? I have his structure here. Shape of the tooth is okay. Color is okay. But of course, it's really weak because it's broken. So I'm gonna take this part off and I'm gonna place a post in here and use the post just to improve retention. And I assure you, it's gonna work because I have very many kinds of this. So I took it off. You see the super glue here, blah, 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 blah. And I noticed you still have a nice structure here. Or I can also, if I didn't have the fragment, the tooth fragment, I could place a post in here and do a composite resin. A crown in composite resin would work perfectly well. And we do that a lot on our children's here. They come with fractured tooth like this and endodontics. Then we do this. We do crowns. And of course, later on, when they're adult or something like that, if they decide, they can change it for ceramic. Okay. So at that time, we didn't have those nice FGM posts. So I've used this post, which was not even translucent. But for this case, it doesn't matter at all. So this is a cylindrical post. See, we didn't have the accessory post too. So I didn't have the 0.4 feet, but it was okay, well fitted. And we still have a lot of dental structure. So in this case, okay, I mean, the tensions over the post is not too big. And then I placed the acid. And I acid etch it a lot. Of course, all the techniques, I'm not going to repeat it, which is I've been using for a very long time. I use the extra thin micro brush. The same thing. Do not cure the adhesive. just place it internally, place your post. In this case, it's a little bit more complicated because it doesn't transmit the light. So there is some cement that copolymerizes with this. So the cement copolymerizes, so you have by a nice copolymerization with the adhesive system. Now, of course, the light goes through a certain point, so you still have a very good adhesion. And also you can use as adhesive system duals to take care to remove all the excess. So since you don't have light transmission, you can use dual actives. A lot of adhesives are like this. The Care has one, Tokuyama has another one. It's a dual adhesive system. You place your cement and then you cement it very well. And now we're gonna prepare our fragment. I'm sorry for that. And see the fragment here is still some repair. So I'm just going to clean it out, place the composite, and here is composite resin. And I'm gonna finish the restoration. And of course, to have the best aesthetic, I'm gonna put a little layer of composite over the entire structure. And here is the final results in just 1 hour appointment. 1 hour, and I've done a post cementation, fragment collagen, so a bonding of the fragment, and a nice veneer. And then I have a very reasonable result. Very conservative, and I can assure you is extremely strong. Of course, without the post, that will be impossible. I cannot use a cast metallic post here. It is impossible. Then we need the fiber post to do situations like this. So those posts are very useful, extremely useful. And I can guarantee you there's a lot of options. Let's take a look. This is immediately after that, and that's after 1 year. Sorry, this is 1 year, and that's 1 year. See, the patient was a heavy smoker, and see how nice it is, the part with composite. It's very similar to the other one. You can barely see where is the restoration here. Okay. Well, pretty much was that. I'm open for questions here. You can ask personally, or you can write it down. I'll see if I can answer some questions. It is 10 o'clock. Actually, it's 11 o'clock. It's 10:59. I try to be sharp on time. I hope I was able to transmit everything I know. As I told you from the beginning, the nice thing of working with this, I have 35 years of clinical practice and about 30 years working with beans, with those posts. And I remember when I was in Switzerland and I saw a symposium about the launching of those posts, and I got very excited about because I knew it would be something very good, very revolutionary. And they've been improving a lot. And today I trust a lot on those. And I know how nice they are. And I use for all kinds of application. I think there's not 1 week in my office that I don't use those posts. So I'm hoping for questions. You can leave any questions. I don't know if you guys are too shy or not. Well, thank you, Wallet. Wallet Fuad, thank you. I think it's the only one that have a rating so far. Well, anyway, I'm gonna give you my email if you need uh, any questions. It's Marcelo Chain arroba at uol dot com dot br. Again, Marcelo Chain, MarceloChain, as Nancy, at uol.com.br. And you can write me. It is a big pleasure. We're supposed to go in Arabia in January, but I think the things did not work properly, and we are probably postpone this activity. I think would be nice. Well, if there is no questions at all, I hope you guys have liked the lecture. It is recorded on YouTube, and you can watch it later if you have any doubts. Okay? And I'm saying goodbye here. It was a big pleasure. Thank you. Bye bye.